102.7 FM. I'm your host, Ryan Broninger. We are on the stage at the Tap on Harvey Road, as we are every Monday and Thursday here in College Station, to talk Aggie sports with you from noon until 1. We are eating some of the Tap's, delicious lunch items from their lunch menu. $8.49 burger basket. They've always got a difference. I think that says, what does that say? Something soup? Does that say taco soup? Tuscany soup. Tuscany soup. That sounds fancy. So I know that John was talking about doing some upgrades on the menu. So $8.49 Tuscany soup. And don't forget Monday nights karaoke, Wednesday nights piano bar. And then to be sure to check the Tap website for the local country music acts, Texas country music acts that will be coming through these doors quite often this spring and into the summer. So a lot of stuff to get to today, as the Aggies are set to host an enormous Junior Day weekend on campus during the Super Bowl, one of their bigger recruiting events of the year. We will have Luch's thoughts on that, as well as Aggie basketball last night falling to an LSU team that I thought was just better than A&M. I thought the Aggies played hard enough and made a decent account of themselves, but LSU was just better top to bottom. But I wanted to start and get Luch's thoughts on something that came out this morning that right before the show hit, and I saw it on Twitter. The NCAA is banning Missouri from postseason play next year because they have found that a tutor essentially did the classwork for some of their student athletes. Now, I'm not arguing. Front table scene.
Indignant up there.
I'm not arguing that they should not be penalized for. We've seen that happen with North Carolina, right? But
and they
it just
largely got off. North Carolina did.
It just seems so. The battles they want to pick with all the stuff that's wrong and going on with the NCAA, you attack the University of Missouri for an academic issue that's happened multiple times at multiple schools. I don't get it with all the other problems out there.
There's nothing to get when it comes to the NCAA, and this just fuels the narrative that they won't do anything to the Texas and Alabamas of the world. When they do something like this and come down so heavy-handed on Missouri, and I don't even know if that punishment should be considered heavy-handed, but when you compare it to others, it is. Like, in other words, I think if you're paying players hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to your school, like some of these premier programs are now starting to, in my opinion, do, and I say starting to, it's been going on, but I mean, I'm talking about some of them are getting pretty bold and brazen with it, and with zero regard for the NCAA or the consequences. And so to me, when Ole Miss gets in trouble for what they got in trouble for, it's 2019 and 2020, is it not?
What for
the bowl ban?
I think it's just next football season.
Whether it's 1 or 2, I thought it was 2. The first thing I read was 2. They might have walked that back on social media, but whichever it is, it's pretty akin to what happened to Ole Miss. Ole Miss, maybe they got a few scholarship cuts,
right? But the big deal is the bowl game.
Pretty the big deal is the scholarship cuts. I mean, what's Missouri going to miss out on? Yeah. What are they missing out on? The Liberty Bowl? If you took away the Texas Bowl from A&M last year.
Well, I also think it's unfair to Kelly Bryant, too.
He plays 12 games instead of 13. If Kelly Bryant had transferred to Alabama and they didn't make the postseason, I think it's pretty devastating. But, I mean, I'm not worried about Kelly Bryant. In one game out of 13, I mean, he could sprain an ankle and miss more than that. I'm talking about what's fair and what's not fair, and there's nothing to discourage these programs from paying and doing what Ole Miss did. And I'm not naive to think that everyone doesn't walk in the gray area and bend rules and occasionally break rules, but I do think there are some that are just brazen with it, and a lot of them are these power premier programs. And when a school like Ole Miss starts to try to tread on that, they get smacked down. when a school like North Carolina has an academic cheating scandal, but it's Roy Williams, it's North Carolina basketball, it's not the justice is certainly not as swift and it's not as strong as it is against Missouri for something like this. And the way I read it, Missouri admitted to it and got punished worse because of it. It's best to cheat and lie. Here's the deal. If you're going to cheat, cheat big because the punishment is about the same.
Right.
And if you get caught, lie. That's the message the NCAA is sending with punishments like these.
It's pretty spineless, dude. It just there's no reciprocity amongst the issues when, like you said, different issues are penalized different. I 100% think it's based on who's untouchable and who is touchable in the eyes of the NCAA.
Which is interesting because if you go back the last 20 years, Miami's gotten it, Alabama's gotten it, Ohio State's gotten it, USC's gotten it. So Penn State's gotten it. They kind of had to. They left the NCAA, no choice. I mean, those are OU, but that you go back a little further there to OU. But those are 5 of the biggest programs in the game that have gotten hit with significant sanctions. But
it
doesn't feel like that's going to happen anymore in the and again, I just think some of these
how bad was
premier
it?
Programs are really getting out of hand, and it really makes recruiting a lot less enjoyable to follow and keep up with.
And it's hard to keep tabs on what these kids are going to do when all that kind of stuff is as rampant as. But how mad must it have been in college basketball for all of them to be brought under with that AAU stuff and the sponsorship? Like, they went after the big dogs, and then I think that's out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people.
I worry about that with football. I worry about football becoming like AAU basketball one day. It's kind of a little small, not small, but it's just something out there on the horizon that you can kind of see coming. It's kind of menacing, sitting out there, coming your way. But I do worry about that too. But, yeah, the basketball stuff is just,
it had to have been bad because they went after everybody.
Yeah,
and
disgraceful.
They couldn't hide anymore. Big Junior Day this weekend. We'll get to that on the other side of the break. But
I know people don't like amateur sports, and they put amateur in quotes and all that, but it's still what it is. These guys aren't paid. They're paid a scholarship that I had to pay back over the course of however many years in student loans, and so did most college students around the country. So they are paid. Now, is it commensurate with some of these stars and what they bring to the – no, it's the whole Johnny Manziel thing. Is it, the value of a whatever $80,000, $100,000 scholarship spread out over 4 or 5 years the same as what he's bringing? No. And do other people get fat off of these? Absolutely. That's a whole nother discussion. But as of now, it is amateur athletics, and when these people try to turn it into professional by paying them, you're screwing up a system that's in place, and you're breaking the law.
Do you see a day where college athletes are paid?
Yeah, but it's just not going to work. They're going to try to do something.
I think it opens Pandora's box.
Yeah, they're going to try to do something, and they're going to say, well, you can pay them this much, and then, to be honest with you, let's do a hypothetical. Let's say Texas is doing something wrong, because we all like to hear that.
Well, they sure made sure the NCAA knew when A&M did something wrong with Javon Shepard, a kid who's coming down to the wire, right?
Oh, you're talking about their fans, yeah.
And the people that cover them.
Well, when people that cover do that, I think it's about as slimy and despicable as it gets, and I don't think those people should be in the profession, personally. I think they should just bow out and head it. Let's just say that, fine, Oklahoma was doing something nefarious or whatever. It's almost as if, why not go all the way with it as opposed to just, half-assing it, because the punishment seems like, A, there's a good chance it's going to be nothing, and B, they don't want to crack down on the premier programs. They don't want empty stadiums in Norman for 10 years when the team sucks like they did. They don't want that stuff. They don't want USC to be where they're at right now. They want USC to be on top and have a couple West Coast powers out there, what it does for the game. So,
like you said, it's a cost analysis for these programs. Is the risk worth the reward? And I think a lot of them are finding out that, it probably is.
But if you're going to pay players, getting back to that part too, I got sidetracked with the stuff when you brought up the Javon stuff. But if you're gonna pay players legally in college, and they okay that, it doesn't change anything. It just, I mean, the schools that want the 5-star athlete are still going to take care of that. The star play,
Well, it's going to
the
be a Title
Johnny
IX
Manziels
coach.
and Vince Youngs and I'm talking about. Ronnie, what I'm saying is you can pay them whatever you want. You can Title IX it and even it out, and whatever that number is. They're not going to rest there. They already don't. So if you give kids $5,000, $10,000 a semester.
Well, I don't disagree with what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? If you give them $10,000 a semester, and there's a Vince Young or a Johnny Manziel or Tua Tagovailoa or whatever, they're not gonna just get what everyone else is getting. It's just not the way this thing's gonna go.
And my deal was
certain programs that are already doing it are gonna say, "Hey, you're Tennessee's star player. Okay, fine, get $10,000 a year, but we're still hooking you up with the car and with the the place to live and this and that and all the other things."
My deal is like, how do you justify with the Title IX stuff? I mean, how are they going to go about paying like a Torrey Vidalis or a Kennedy Carter? How do you judge what they bring in compared to Kellen Mond? It opens a big jar of worms that I think it's a headache for a lot of people.
It'll eventually happen because people won't shut up about it and everybody gives in because everybody's weak and soft in today's Twitter-centric universe. So it'll happen, and it'll be a disaster, and it'll be a big mess.
On the other side of the break, we'll turn our attention to recruiting. Big weekend for the Aggies coming up. You listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on The Zone.